All right, I'll start. Okay, so medically we should be in a good place. Plenty of maintenance, obviously, this time of year. Nothing really noteworthy from a long-term perspective or should impact us. The game was pretty simple. Turnovers, number one indicator of games, wins, and losses, and it showed up in our game. And we weren't able to take advantage of those little moments. Every game has moments and opportunities that you can capitalize on, whether it's a sudden change, a turnover, on the opposing team, or a great opportunity in there, and we just weren't able to do it. And so, they took advantage of those opportunities. I thought, we did a lot of good stuff on defense. I thought we put ourselves in a heck of a position. Teams I thought we battled offensively, I felt like we just weren't able to take advantage of some opportunities. I love this group's attitude. I think our group's battling each and every day, and I think obviously this is a challenging thing that we have had to navigate collectively. But I think, these things, when you get through these storms and to the other side of it, you become a really, really resilient team, really, really resilient individuals. And so, we're going to find a way to get through that.
You haven't decided on quarterback yet, right?
No, yeah. So starting with the QB, no. We just got done closing the book on this Tampa Bay game. We'll now begin really starting here soon. Our plan of action for LA, and we'll make a decision shortly, and just go down that path just so we can maximize as many reps and opportunities as we can moving forward.
You mentioned yesterday you don't want to do the flip-flopping thing, the back and forth thing. I mean, obviously, if you chose to put Spencer back in there, that's, sort of what would be happening, though.
Yeah, I think, for the individual game with Tampa, we just needed a spark. We weren't playing well on offense. It had more to do with our entire offense than Spencer. Spencer's had some turnover bugs, the last 2 weeks, but he's played plenty of good football to put ourselves in positions. And so I was trying to generate a spark, trying to generate something that can get us going collectively. And I thought Tyler went in there. He battled. I thought he really hasn't taken any reps with the ones at all in the last month and a half. And so he got in there. I thought he operated and did some good things, and we'll just make a decision here shortly and allow ourselves to move forward with that plan.
If the intent was to generate a spark, were there other things that you tried before changing out the quarterback, or was changing out the quarterback the way that you thought?
Certainly, we've tried some different things schematically and some different opportunities, and we just weren't generating enough going there, and so it felt like it was an opportunity to see if we can get it done.
You mentioned some of the missed opportunities that were there. I assume you're talking about with offense based on some of your comments from yesterday. What were some of the things that stood out to you?
Thought the first two drives of the game we were moving it just fine. First drive it ultimately ends up in the fumble. Second drive we have a sack, right around. It seems like this little area that seems to keep nipping us, which is around the 40-yard line. We're kind of approaching field goal range, and we get a big sack that knocks us out. And so, our defense makes a big stop backed up. That was a phenomenal, that's just a phenomenal example of just effort and finish and strain, and our defense just battled for that 4 plays in a row. And we can obviously create another turnover there. And so, we have opportunities in these games. We're just not able to capitalize. And so we just got to find a solution.
Have you identified any kind of through line for that 40-yard line, that you talked about?
Tends to be negative plays, whether it be either via penalty or negative run, negative sack. And so obviously we got to do a better job there because it's happened a few times in some of these games where you're making a lot of positives, and it's just the ability to sustain a drive over the course of you're approaching that 6 or 7 plays, and you just got to keep going. You got to keep going, and if it takes 10 plays to get down there, we just got to get there.
Despite the fact that you have seen top of the league, I guess, defenses these past back-to-back weeks. Is there a reason why Spencer is struggling? Is he doing anything different in practice?
No, not per se. I think his preparation has been very, very similar, very consistent through the course of this entire season. That's one of the things I love about him. The turnover thing has been unfortunate. Chicago's done a phenomenal job of creating turnovers. They created them, but we obviously got to do a better job protecting. I think this week, we had a few unfortunate ones. The ball security ones are the ones we got to for sure control, because I feel like those are very much more in your control. Thought the edge rusher, he made a phenomenal play on the backed up interception, but we got to find a way to continue to protect this football.
It's like insignificant. I don't know. Tyler had a lot of throws like outside the numbers. Was that due to situation? What the Bucs were giving you was his preference?
I would say that's probably going to be related to the situation of the game. You're in a multi-score lead, and so defense are going to force you to throw outside and underneath, and you're not going to get the big chunkers when you're down by 17 points, and so something we kind of had to navigate there.
Did you like Spencer's decision on the interception to really start getting Moreau? Was that the right read, or how did you put it in the process?
He's throwing to the right guy. I mean, Foster's got a chance. He's open. He's got to play. There's obviously a defender in the way, and he's a really tall, long, athletic edge rusher, and so he made a phenomenal play on the ball. Obviously, we can look at it and try and find a lane to get there, or protect the football on second and short. But the guy made a great play, and it was a really unfortunate situation.
When there's an interception like that, and then Tyler's interception later that goes off the hands of a receiver, how do you sort of kind of weigh that? I guess I don't know.
Teamwork.
Like, what's the negotiation for you in terms of understanding, taking a look at what the context around it is?
Every context of a turnover has to be really, really dissected, and I think it takes all of us. It takes all of us from a schematic standpoint to an execution standpoint to a fundamental standpoint, and so we all share in these turnovers. They all get pinned onto individuals, but that's where stats have to give it to someone. But again, I think we just got to execute at a higher level. There were some unfortunate plays in this game that created turnovers that you feel like we're in the right process. It's just not being executed the way in which we hope for, and so we just got to get better.
Do you wish you had run the ball a little bit more yesterday?
Would have loved to have run the ball a little bit more. The lack of flow in that game just made it challenging.
Even early in the game, though, when it was just a 7-3 game, you only had 5 runs in the first half. Why was that game plan specific? You saw an opportunity to?
Yeah, certainly felt like throwing the football a little bit early in that game to try and get some momentum, get the lead. Felt like there were some opportunities going into the game that we felt really, really confident about. A couple run plays that we end up throwing it. So obviously those become pass attempts, which those are certainly part of the plan going into that against those guys. Was you're going to have to throw some balls on run plays where you're throwing an outlet, whether it be a bubble screen or a quick outlet. And so there were a few of those early in the game, which was all part of the plan.
What do you think of just Tyler's operation of the offense itself and beyond?
Yeah, going into the game, like in those circumstances, I thought I operated well. We just got to keep, try and find ways to execute at a higher level from an offense perspective. And so I thought his personal operation, I thought, was pretty clean.
Some of the improvement that you talked about, like running the scout team, could you see that kind of take place in yesterday's game?
Yeah, I think navigating the pocket, obviously, when you're in a multi-score game like that, you're going to have some challenging pockets, and I thought you navigated that pretty well.
Taysom only had 5 snaps. Was that related to the lack of run, or what went into that?
Yeah, not by design. Probably one of the, when you look at the play numbers, that's on me. We certainly had a lot of stuff in the plan for Taysom to be a part of this thing, and it just didn't allow itself. And so I got to find a way to get him on the field more.
Was that also related to the lack of red zone trips?
Red zone, situational calls. There's a lot of situations that you have plays for, but you got to get to them.
Can you go into Tyler's developmental on the scout team? I'm presuming on that he's running. This week was Tampa's looks. Is it really just about getting the feel down?
Yeah, so playing scout team quarterback, obviously you're imitating the opponent, as your starting point, but, concepts are concepts, schemes are schemes. We all have a lot of similarities there, and so I think the beauty of it is a lot of times you're going to run a concept to say, you can look at the picture and say, hey, that's very similar to this concept we run, and so I can execute this in a very similar fashion and put myself in a real game-like situation. I think Tyler's done a nice job throughout this whole process of doing that. The other part of it is obviously some of the pocket movements and some of those things that you naturally have to do because you're kind of in a scout team setting. It puts you in some challenging situations to help navigate. It stresses you in some of those situations, and so there's plenty of little components that you can develop on, in that situation.
Is there like a there like benefit to just kind of going out there and playing ball? I mean, obviously it's not like backyard football, but like you are.
Well, I think you're able to test yourself in an environment that allows you to do that. You can kind of navigate some things and maybe push the edges a little bit, push the envelope as far as, can I make this throw? Can I is this a decision I can do this late in the process, whatever it may be. And so you do get to test yourself and kind of find those edges that you get to work around.
What do you think of Cornerback yesterday?
I thought he did a really nice job. I thought he did his job. I thought the communication was really good up front. We got to execute some situations a little bit better, but I thought he held his ground really well.
Did anything stand out when you rewatched Spencer's game?
Yeah, really just turnovers, unfortunately. And so, there were we moved the ball, in some instances there. We just weren't able to execute and sustain it long enough. And so, offensively, we just got to find a way. We just got to catch a little groove here, and so we can play at a little bit higher level.
May not answer this, but what are the pros and cons for staying with Spencer or vice versa? Like, what are you thinking about as you mull a change here or not mull a change?
All we're trying to do is put ourselves in the best position to be successful on Sunday against LA, and so what that ends up being, we'll make a decision quick. I think the really important aspect is starters need to get every rep they can. You don't get into this whole weekly competition or any of that stuff. These guys got to get ready to rock and roll, and we just got to make a decision and go.
Not to parse your words or anything, but obviously if the decision was always just about winning the next game, you might always go with a more experienced guy. Like, at what point is it Tyler might not be the best chance to win, but he needs time to develop and things like that?
Yeah, that's a fair question. I think we're trying to win. We're trying to win. We're trying to put ourselves in really good situations to be successful. We can develop along the same exact path as well. And plenty of guys around on our team have gotten better each week and put themselves in really successful situations. And we have a couple of really young quarterbacks. They're both young. Both I don't even know if Spence's really played a full NFL season technically. So they're both young guys. I think the world of both of them. I think the world of these guys, the rest of our quarterback room, these guys are going to keep developing and doing it the right way, and we just got to find a way to play a little bit better. I got to call a little bit better, put these guys in the best situation so that we can have an environment that allows that position specifically, irrelevant to who the QB is. We got to create an environment that allows those guys to thrive.
Do you think Tyler's development has reached a point where you could win with him?
Tyler's done a nice job through his whole process. Hey, we went through the whole training camp, and they were right next to each other. Went all the way to the end. I thought Spence has done some really good things. Tyler's continued to develop. They're both progressing, I think, in a positive manner.
In your experience, what is the hardest part about developing as a backup quarterback, aside from the obvious that you're not throwing to the first team?
I think sometimes it's the communication aspect of it. Like we were kind of talking about throwing the football and the concepts, you can get a lot of similarities and you can get a lot of that. But I think it goes into the protection game, the checks, the audibles, all the communication aspects that you don't necessarily get with the whole group on a week-to-week basis.
Kellen, I know you've, I'm taking away from this for a second, but I know you've been to LSU with Thomas since you've been here. Any thoughts on BK's firing?
Yeah, obviously unfortunate. They got a lot of really good coaches up there, including him, and so obviously they've had a ton of success. They've been operating at a really high level, and obviously I'm a huge fan of LSU, particularly because of Garrett being up there for all these years, and so I've obviously watched them for a long time and watched them every single Saturday, and so it's just a challenging thing. It's unfortunate, just because there's been a lot of good that's gone on up there before this.
Is there anything you can glean from the joint practices you guys had against the Rams?
I think both teams will naturally look at that exposure just because there's, it's pretty much the same roster with a few moving pieces. So I think both teams will take a peek at it, take it for what it's worth, and then you got all this other film. But it was great work. It was awesome work. I think it was good for our players to kind of get a feel for theirs, and so it'll be good.
Was Danny Stutzman's usage plan a little different yesterday than previous weeks?
It was really similar, just the way the sequencing got packaged. I think he ended up with, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, 8 plays, maybe something like that. Yeah, I think it was 8. So, Yeah, it was very similar to the last couple weeks. It's just the way those drives ended, shorter drives, and then we were into some of those third down packages that played with, just DeMario on the field.
Philip McKinstry's stringing together.
Yes, he is. Yes. Yeah, just consistent play. Consistent play leads to confidence, leads to that swagger that he plays with, and you can just see it. You can see it. It's been building the last few weeks. I think this back end, this younger group, has been building the last few weeks. I think there's a lot of positives with that group, and they just got to keep progressing and taking this thing where we all know they can take it to.
Devon played a season high in sacks. Was there anything that led to that opportunity, or was it just being low?
We're always trying to get him on the field a little bit more. Probably haven't done a good enough job getting him on the field the last few weeks, and so he deserves his opportunities. He's a really solid player. He does a good job. He can do a lot of the dirty work and some of those run game things. I thought he had some really good blocks in some of those runs in the first half.
Just as a big coach, how do you approach handling with a player like Juwan? Is obviously a big part of what you all are doing offensively. Was that some drops this year? Just move on to the next place sort of deal?
Yeah, we just got to navigate it together. We're all in this thing together. Obviously, there's fundamental stuff that we're always trying to focus on and improve on. And I think a lot of times the challenge for all of this, for all of us, is once you get past this, you got to take the emotion out of this and just get to the factual part of this. If something happened, okay, this happened. Now, how do I respond to this? How do I get better? How can we help from a teaching standpoint or from a fundamental standpoint? And I think that's always a challenge for all of us because this is an emotional game. We all get emotional related to this game. And so while those emotions are it's healthy to have those emotions, the highs, the lows, you have to get past that. And then you have to get to this kind of neutral mindset of, okay, how are we going to move forward?
Are the drops becoming a problem for you guys?
No, there's a couple plays, and you just looking. Okay, how can we get better in those situations? And everyone should come out of every game with a couple items that they can focus on, and then we have an opportunity to, whether it be a drill or an adjustment from a teaching standpoint or a schematic standpoint, to allow us to get better.
What went into you guys claiming Zaire from the wire?
Yeah, we just kind of unique circumstance. He's played some football in Baltimore. We felt like. He's had some success there, like kind of his play style. He's a really physical blocker. I believe Cleveland before that. And so just felt like it was an added piece for our roster. Get him here, get him acclimated, kind of go through that process, and we'll see where everything takes from there.
With going into yesterday's game, you had mentioned that you were anticipating Quincy Riley starting at corner, but then seeing where things were for Isaac throughout the week. Has Riley done enough to hold on to that starting position moving forward at this point?
I think he's done a lot of good things. And so Quincy's continued to earn those opportunities. Ike's doing a great job. Ike's a professional, the ultimate professional. He's doing a lot of positive things for our team. He's contributing in really good ways in special teams. Seasons take a lot of different courses. Ike will be ready if the opportunity presents itself. But, Quincy, I thought, part of those younger guys on the back end, I think they've all been progressing better and better each week.
For Devin to play as much as he did, is that kind of a sign you guys have the trust in him as a pass blocker already? And then, he didn't get a carry at all, or what kind of went into that? Was it just
circumstances? Yeah, he's the backup running back. He's going to play plenty of opportunities, just like Kendre did when he was the number 2. They did a really good job in protection, and obviously the carries will come his way naturally over the course of the next few weeks.
And what stood out to you all about Audric Estime to go out and add him to the practice squad?
Yeah, I thought just his experience going to Denver and then Philadelphia, so there's some exposure there that we have some familiarity with our staffs, and he had an awesome preseason. Obviously he's a recent draft pick, and so obviously there's recent exposure to him going back to Notre Dame, and so we feel like he's a big, physical, strong, good-looking running back. He's practiced a few days with us now. It's been impressive. He's a really good player, and so again, another piece to kind of just keep growing and keep getting him acclimated to our system, and then obviously we'll see when the opportunities present themselves.
more on the quarterbacks? You said before that, you're going to make you're going to announce a decision sometime this week, right? You're not going to do it for competitive.
No.
Thanks, Kellen.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.